It's the Brad and John Show.
And it's the show for April 23rd. It's a Wednesday. 2025 is the year. B is the block. Okay, John, I teased in the previous block about the fact you don't mess around with Jim, okay? You know who Kristi Noem is? She used to be the governor, North Dakota, I believe? North or South Dakota?
Yeah, North Dakota. She's pretty easy on the eyes, right? She likes to shoot dogs. What else do we know about her?
Well, that was where I was going with this. The story, which was in, I think, her bio or something like that, her autobiography, the book she wrote about her, about how, and why you would put this in, I don't quite understand. She had a dog that didn't quite measure up to her expectations, was a little bit hard to train, so she took it out in back of the South 40, and she shot it dead, okay? You would think that if someone like that, you know what, my phone just died. No, here it is. Okay, I'm going to say, John, if you knew that about Kristi Noem, would you assume that she was not the kind of person to be trifled with?
Yeah, I'm guessing the reason she told that story, whether true or not, is that she wants to show that she's not just some typical, soft underbellied broad that would wilt under pressure, right? She's a bad A-double-S, and everybody better recognize that she likes to shoot stuff.
Do you know what happened to Kristi over the weekend?
No, what happened?
She was out with family and friends, and someone stole her purse.
Ooh, no way. And I'm sure they got like a pearl handle 22 out of it, right?
In her purse was thousands in cash, along with all her keys and her driver's license, her passport and agency ID, all that stuff in her purse, okay? I don't think I would want to be the person that stole that. Because, first off, if they find out who does it, I don't think she's going to just say, well, let's just let bygones be bygones. Don't you think? Don't you think she's going to, say to the guy, hey, I need to take you on a little tour of my farm in North Dakota. What do you think, John?
Yeah. What was the movie where you had the mentally handicapped guy got shot?
That was My Life Story.
Of Mice and Men. Yeah. The guy that wanted to pet the bunnies. Yeah, I see where you're going with that, Brad.
Okay, now
did we get resolution on the story?
No, as far as I know, they've not found the purse or anything like that. Now, here's the interesting thing. She's being criticized because she says she had $3,000 in cash in her purse. And immediately I'm thinking to myself, my kind of girl. I'm a cash kind of guy.
You carry a lot of cash. Or you carry cash on you. I shouldn't say a lot, but you carry cash on you.
She says the reason for that was that she was taking her family members, they were apparently in for the weekend or something like that, and she was taking them out to dinner at places like that. See, now once again, there are people, I said it again, once again, there are people out there who go, oh my God, I can't believe she uses a credit card. Well, I'm a cash kind of guy, and these people talk about there'll be a day when nobody will accept cash. And you know what? That's when this country falls apart.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That in the day that we don't use typewriters anymore.
Because, John, I'm pulling out a whole $5 bill that I have right here, and it says right on it, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, okay? Which means if you don't accept cash, doesn't that mean you're breaking the law?
Oh, yeah, boy, it sure does. You sure got them on that technicality. I wonder how many baristas have heard that from an old crippled man coming into Starbucks. Did you know that this says legal tender? Put your dentures back in, Grandpa. That's what I would say to them. Anyway, Brad, the reason you don't use cash in public is because it slows the cashier down. It's disrespectful. Nobody wants to see an old person pulling out either a checkbook or cash. How many times have you been forced to use a checkout line and there's some granny in front of you that pulls out her checkbook?
Well, no, hold on a minute.
It's disgusting.
John, I took your advice, and what's pretty interesting is John has all these different social mores that he says, well, you don't do this until you do this. And John, once upon a time, told me that the proper way to use cash is you text the cashier before you show up.
That's exactly right.
Text her
to
and say,
make sure they have proper change.
Right. You text her and say, I'm third in line. I have a 20. I will require at least $8 in change. Is that a problem? And she texts you back, no, I can't wait to wait on you. See, that's the proper way to do it. Okay. Al Gore. John, you know what? You know why they've trotted out Al Gore this week? He's everywhere. Do you know why that is, John? You talked about it yesterday.
Does it have to do with Earth Day?
Yes, they've trotted out Al Gore. Okay.
And who's they?
Well, this particular, he was a guest. He was speaking at Climate Week. Matter of fact, he was in, San Francisco, I believe? Of course he was in San Francisco. Yes, he was the keynote speech at a science museum to kick off San Francisco's Climate Week event when he said the Trump administration was going, quote, trying to create their own preferred version of reality. And he said, I am quoting, I understand very well why is it wrong to compare Adolf Hitler's Third Reich to any other movement, Gore said. It was uniquely evil, full stop. I get it, but there are important lessons from the history of that emergent evil. He goes on to say that essentially he mentions a couple guys who were mentors to Adolf Hitler. And he says the first step into that nation's descent, he's talking about Germany, the descent into hell, and I quote, this is him, the conversion of all questions of truth into power, Gore said. He described how the Nazis, and I quote again, attacked the very heart of distinction between true and false, end quote. The Trump administration is insisting on trying to create their own preferred version of reality. Don't you find it somewhat ironic that he's digging on the Trump administration own a version of reality when we had a president who was barely functional, and yet the administration, he's perfectly fine. Remember the interview that was on the blog we talked about yesterday with Elizabeth Warren, where the guy is just, whoever the podcaster was, would not let her go on this question of, essentially was not Al Gore, was Joe Biden. Was Joe Biden in his senses? Was he functional? Was he really the leader of the free world? Was he really in charge? Don't you find it ironic that Al Gore is accusing the Trump administration of essentially twisting the facts?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're Al Gore, what else are you going to say, Brad, to get yourself some kind of attention now? Like, what is Al Gore going to say that's interesting to make people care about what he has to say? I mean, so you jump on the Nazi thing, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know what more to say than that, other than what else could Al Gore possibly do to stay relevant?
Okay, he goes on to say, quote, they say the climate crisis is a hoax invented by the Chinese to destroy American manufacturing, which to a certain extent is true because of the fact that, Chinese are plunking down coal-fired power plants left and right. If you remember the story when we had the Olympics in China, they closed down all the manufacturing plants in that area for a couple weeks so the air would clear out, yep. That kind of thing. Okay, he further goes on to say, we have to deal with the democracy crisis in order to solve the climate crisis. He says we're in a democracy crisis. I mean, is Al Gore, is this the kind of guy you'd have out of your house and you'd say, hey, Al, I'm going to barbecue some steaks on the grill in the backyard. And he says, well, that's going to add to air pollution. And, you've killed a cow to make those steaks. And, those cows produce flatulence, which creates environmental problems. And there was diesel fuel used to transport that cow from the pasture to the slaughterhouse. And the slaughterhouse, created pollution. I mean, wouldn't you want to say, dude, get the hell out of my house? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, take a look at his international travel or his domestic travel. And I think all of that's pretty well worn. I mean, I think we've seen what Al Gore was predicting, as you have pointed out, Brad, an old Al Gore TED Talk where he talks about the end of the world and how the world's going to be coming to an end pretty soon. And thankfully that hasn't happened. Well, I was listening to 93.3 yesterday in the car, The Reckoning by Ryan Hite. That show is, I believe, from 4 to 6. And he was talking about a gentleman named Gregory Wrightstone, who has a book called Inconvenient Facts. It's something like what Al Gore doesn't want you to know about the global climate crisis. And this guy leads something called the CO2 Coalition. And Ryan was going through some of the key facts and some of the real takeaways of how important fossil fuels are. Ryan was talking about how fossil fuels are what we use to move crops from one part of the world to another. To move, to your point, Brad, beef, and other important meats throughout the United States and throughout the world, why fossil fuels are a good thing. And Ryan also talked about how Earth Day is no longer about, quote unquote, sustainability, or actually the people that are the stewards of the land, like people that actually take care of the land, but it's become some sort of climate religion these days.
To me, he's Mr. Buzzkill. I need to cut up that. That wasn't the original TED Talk. It was another one he did where he's talking about, he starts off the TED Talk by complaining the fact that now he's not this very important person. He has to fly commercial. Oh my God, is that sad or what? John, he has to fly with us.
Well, was he being sarcastic? In his defense, was he being sarcastic when he said that?
He was not. He was complaining about the fact that he had to go through the TSA checkpoints and blah, 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 blah. But then a little bit later in the same TED Talk, he talks about the fact how he's flying back from some climate conference on his G4, which for those of you not into rap music like John knows what a G4 is because it's been referenced in many, 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 many different rap songs. G4 is a Gulfstream 4, which is now an older corporate jet, but still, for the most part, I believe it's still out there. The G3s have pretty much been retired, but the G4s are out there in force. And he's complaining about, they had to stop at some island to refuel. Oh my God, how sad is that? You have to land someplace. You can't. Why didn't they just get him into like one of these Army transports or Air Force transports that can, and they do an in-flight refueling for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, have another plane meet him up there and refuel midair. I like that idea.
I guess what's frustrating to me about it is he's prospered immensely by being this guy who complains about everything and the whole deal with Trump and the Nazis. You'd think the Democrats would have learned their lesson by getting tromped in, and pardon the pun, tromped in the 2024 election. Because what did the Democrats say? Oh, Trump is a Nazi. He's a Nazi. He's a Nazi.
And a fascist, Brad.
And a fascist.
Remember that you have to include fascists, too.
Okay, if you know anything about Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, they hated Jews. Donald Trump's daughter is a converted Jew. Donald Trump's son-in-law is a Jew. Donald Trump's one set of grandkids with his daughter, who switched to Judaism, are Jewish grandkids. Let me think about this for a minute. Do you think Adolf Hitler would allow that? Do you think that I don't think he had any kids, did he? I don't think he did.
I don't think so.
Do you think?
And just think of how many times Donald Trump has had to go in for a loan.
The whole thing to me.
How could you be anti-Semitic if you have to go apply for a loan somewhere? And I don't mean like from your Synchrony credit card at Walmart, which, by the way, reports earnings this week. Not Walmart, but Synchrony. Low-end credit stuff. Anyway, I digress. But if you're Donald Trump, you can't hate Jewish people.
I just don't get it. Okay. Do you know who is a guy by the name of Mattress Mack? That's his nickname. Do you ever heard of this guy before?
No. Is he related to Becky Queen of Carpet?
No. By the way, there's a series of ads that are running. If you heard these before, they run them on 97.1. I've heard them on a couple other stations as well too. It's this company called Best Buy Carpet and Tile. They have a location in North County, right there in Lindbergh, in Lynn Haven, a couple other locations. And they've now started channeling the old commercials where it's a guy and a gal that do the commercials. And they start off with saying like, "Hey, is that you on your carpet flying above the arch?"
Oh, now that's gimmick infringement. Had they gotten the blessing of Becky?
Well, Becky's dead. Did you know that?
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, Becky Queen.
I think most people that have the name Becky are of a certain generation. It's like the name Jennifer, right? You're not going to meet a kid in elementary school. Your kids are never going to play with a girl named Jennifer. I think anybody named Becky is at least 50, wouldn't you say?
Okay, you're going to get me here. I'm weaving on something. Let me finish.
I know, that's my point. I don't think we need to get to Mattress Mack till C Block. Go ahead.
Okay, the weave.
Can we talk about Steve Mizrarini for a while too, Brad?
Yeah, don't be confused with Steve Mizrarini. Okay, the weave is that the reason I know Becky is no longer with us is a friend of mine was all excited because she was bidding on her clothing and her shoes on an online estate sale.
Wow, I don't even know where. And I'm guessing your friend is I won't say that. Never mind.
Well, the situation on this was that when Becky passed away, apparently Becky liked the finer things in life, and she bought very expensive purses and clothing, and more importantly, very expensive shoes. What's those things called? Manolo blocks, whatever they call them, with the red.
Manolo blocks. And by the way, is the person that bid on this, can you just tell me, is it someone I like, or can I make fun of them?
It's someone you do not know. Okay, so
Okay, good. Okay, so this is a woman of size.
yeah.
Because Becky was not a small woman, right? She was a queen because she
Well,
was the queen of
no.
carpet.
In her later years, she lost a lot of weight. She was like slim and trim. That was the thing.
Oh, wow. Was she looking for a man, I guess? She was looking for the king of carpets?
I don't the king of carpets. So anyway, all her stuff, and to me, it was sort of sad. It's to the point where it's like, okay, here's people who are looking, you're dead. I mean, you don't know what's going on. Maybe if you're up in heaven looking down, you do. But you got people who are going, oh, look at that. I want that pair of shoes. Oh, I want that handbag. It's sort of sad.
What's wrong with that, Brad?
I think it's sad. I think it's sad.
What should happen to it? Al Gore says you shouldn't burn it.
See, here's the interesting thing. I found this out, and John, this is not going to hurt my feelings, but I've already found out that John's hired someone to come over to my place and take a look at all my broken down cars, and John's already secretly talked to my attorney, and he's going to be the liquidator of my estate, and he's going to have all my cherished possessions of all my broken down transmitters and all my old cars and all my...
And the helium tank. Don't forget the helium tank.
And not one, not two, but 3 nitrogen tanks, which are worth about $100 a piece, John, but that's a whole nother story. All these things that are my prized possessions that are going to go for like pennies on the dollar, just like Becky's Queen of Carpet shoes went for, her what is it called? Manolo Blancs? Is that what they are?
Yeah, Manolo Blancs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are those the ones with the red soles? Is that the ones? Which are the ones?
No, those are Louboutins.
What are those again?
Louboutins.
How do you know this, John?
When you have a lot of shoes up by your ears, Brad, you get to know the brand names.
Why did I ask that question? Okay, John is correct. We'll talk about Mattress Mack in C Block, which I think is sort of interesting. Okay, are you ready for this? Are you ready for C Block, John?
I am, Brad. It's usually crazy, weird story block, and today it's going to be Mike's mattresses.
Mattress Mack.